Recording in progress.
Jack Henderson, mate. How are you?
Mate, good to be here. Really
Nice.
well, as always.
It's been a little while since you and I have been on the mic.
Too long, mate. You were chasing me for game plans for many months, and mate, you closed me. So very, very good.
Got you in the end. Mate, I think you were one of the OGs for Smash Davo too.
I was. Mate, I had my Smash Davo and I had property too. So They say you can't have your cake. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I'm a living proof that you can absolutely have your cake and you can definitely eat it too, my friend.
Yeah, I just saw that last purchase walkthrough, mate. I'm pretty impressed, if I may say so myself.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I have a lot of great people in my life that help and assist with things, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate. People like yourself, Jordan, you see, just fucking spreading the good word always.
Thanks, mate. So on to the property side of things, and this is kind of why I love having a bit of a chat to you, but I know your philosophy on property is pretty strong and the way you sort of look at property is pretty strong, and I love that. But what do you reckon your own sort of philosophy on building out a portfolio looks like?
Mate, it's a good question, and I love the way you phrased it, right? Because what I do is not for everyone, and I think that's what sort of pisses me off about this industry. It's like, this strategy is the only strategy, blah, blah. Like, it's BS. Every single person is has a different risk appetite, earns a different income, has different goals, and whatever suits that person. But for me personally, mate, I've got very, very big goals, and I need to be buying properties that have the strongest probability of high growth and consistent growth. And it's also quite conservative in nature, right? Because generally speaking, the better quality anything that you buy, the longer it lasts. So with property, it's exactly the same. The better quality property that you buy in, the more desirable location, where you have higher affluence buyers who earn more money and can spend more money on property, that marketplace or marketplaces in Australia, there's plenty of them, they usually perform better. And I don't need to use my portfolio to give me the life that I want. I need to use my portfolio really as a store of wealth, because I earn money, and I'm good at earning money, I suppose. I'm not really good at anything else. So my business is the driver for the income, and I use that income then and put it into property. And then obviously property is great because it grows in value, and you can allows you to then refinance and buy more property with essentially, it's not even real money, it's fake money, right? It's the bank gives it to you. So that's essentially my philosophy. It's very conservative, it's very long term, and it's very blue chip.
Yeah, I love it. I love the view because, obviously you've done the maths and the numbers on the growth element and how that compounds massively over time, which I think is so important. But I love the thought process of, well, I don't need the income to sustain the portfolio. That's what my job's for. I'm gonna bring the income in myself to sustain the portfolio and just maintaining and building wealth from there. It's what I always loved your outlook on it. But if we go back to young Hendo in the mining days, if you could go back and tell yourself something when you first started, what would it be?
So young Hendo would say opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, right? So there's a lot of people who have an opinion on your life, especially you just have to build more of a profile, and you're always asking for guidance. And you just got to be careful of whose opinions you take and don't take. So that's a really big one. And I think you also, like with I think building wealth and all the rest of it, like sometimes you can become a little bit out of check with reality as well. So always checking your ego and always checking the kind of person you're becoming is another thing. And I've had a few, checks and reality checks that I've needed, which has been good, man. Which has been good. But at the same time, I think you need to be authentically yourself, and that's something that I've always been. And 80+% of people probably don't like it, but the 20% who do like it, that they really like me because they know me for who I am.
Yeah, I think that authenticity piece is definitely you. Like, who you are, what you stand for. You are the flamingo man. Like, you make it, you know what I mean? Where you talk about that sort of reality check, and I love the fact that you brought that up because one of my big admirations is sort of what you do with your own and how you want to be the top 1%. I don't know the specifics on what you go on to, but I was having a chat to you about, why you stopped drinking alcohol, and you blatantly just said, I didn't like who I was when I was drinking alcohol, so I cut it out. And I think that's like super impressive. If you really do want to become someone different and become someone better and focus on your business, I think it's so important to have your own self-check, regardless of people have told you or not, and take action on it.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And that's like thing. Like everyone's got an opinion, right? You should do this, you should do that. Maybe you shouldn't talk like that. Maybe it's just like I posted something the other day on one of my social channels, and it was like, don't take advice of someone who is in the position that you want to be in. And that's a generalization, right? Because there's a lot of people who are not financially in the position that I want to be in that I still would listen to their opinion. But I think that the reality of the statement that I said is, you just have to be. I just think you have to be careful of a lot of different contributors, because you can be going on a really good path, and then you can listen to someone's advice, and you change course, and you change course, and you change course, and some of that advice will be good advice. But I think if you stay true to yourself, you're probably going to see your full potential, or you're also going to uncover your flaws, which could be something that brings you unstuck.
Yeah, take everything as a bit of a grain of salt, do your own due diligence, and then make a decision on it. Now, I know we've probably covered your portfolio a fair times before, and you said there wasn't too much you'd change about it, but was there any sort of not major, but any minor mistake that you might have made that you'd change on your portfolio? Or if you had the opportunity to reset now, would you have purchased something different along the journey?
Mate, good question. Yes, few things. One would be just some structuring of finances. Like I've gone into a few deals, and I'm someone who just makes a decision and just does it. And sometimes that can be too fast and don't ask the right questions for the right people, and get it's probably counterintuitive to what I was trying to say. You're not getting the right advice I should have asked for. And it's probably given me lower returns than what I could have gotten. And then also I bought a penthouse in Newcastle for myself to live in. And I spent $2.5 million on it, or just over, and I don't know why the fuck I did it. So I just got excited and I walked through it, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I can see myself living here, and sort of just bought it. 6 months on, I'm like, oh, the fuck did I do that? So I'm going to offload that asset, I think, and put that money into something that is a better investment. So, and that's my investment brain always thinking, like I bought that as more of a personal asset, and I thought, yeah, I'm in a good position now. I should do it, but I don't even like the location it's in. Like I wouldn't enjoy living there. And I think I just got caught up in the whole penthouse and ocean views and all the rest of it. So I'll probably sell that in the next 3 to 6 months, and then I'll buy something else, which is a much smarter investment.
Yeah, that's a great plan. It's one of those. I have this discussion a lot with people. It's like, do we offload? Do we not offload? Do we hold on to it? Wait till a better market, sell it then? And it's good that you've made that call already. You know that you're going to sell it. You put a time frame to it. You can get rid of it, and then reinvest into something that's going to perform better for you. But yeah, that's good, mate.
Yeah,
that's a good highlight.
But that's the only thing, dude. Like overall, I think it's really good. Like there's little things, right? Like the first apartment I bought is ground floor. It's very dark, doesn't have parking. But at the point in time, that's the budget that I had, and that's what I could get. It's still done exceptionally well since I bought it. Like I paid $700 for it, or $720, and it's worth like $115, $112, and that's a bank val. So look, it's done well. I'm not complaining, but knowing what I know now, I work in the industry and I buy a lot of this kind of property. I would have bought something that had parking, probably had a little bit more sunlight. I also bought some apartments in Newcastle, which my play with that was to acquire the whole block. It's a block of 6, like right on the beach, and I'll redevelop it down the track. But with that, the building had strata issues, and it's just been a huge head fuck ever since I've owned it, which hasn't really affected me too much, like financially, because I've just stepped back from it and just let everyone else sort of deal with it, because I know my end goal is just to acquire the rest of the apartments in the building. But again, like you look at it and go, maybe I should have done something else. But the end play will play off. And again, they've performed exceptionally well. But it's very much my personality, like I always want to do everything bigger and better. And that's what I do. And that's why I bought a penthouse for no reason. Fortunately for me, the marketplace is good and I can sell it for more than I paid for it. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a good way to be though. You always want to improve and do better. And I'm the same. Like if I look back on my portfolio in hindsight, there's plenty of things I'd buy differently. But when you got a certain budget you got to stick to, and you think you want to buy in a certain area, it becomes tough. So
And hindsight's it's much easier in hindsight to make the decision, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, I would have done that now because you've seen how everything's unfolded. But at the point in time, it felt like the right decision because of all the information that you had at hand.
Yeah, spot on, man. So tell me a little bit about the BA route, because you're earning some good coin back in the mining role, and then you obviously started to build the portfolio out from then at quite a young age, if I recall. And then I think you did a reno, correct me if I'm wrong, and then you kind of were thinking, what's left? Like how did that, or what's next sort of thing? How did that transition from doing pretty well from a young age to how do I keep improving myself come about, and what made you want to get into the buyer's agent scene?
It's a good question, dude. So yeah, my whole 30-second story was I was in the mines or in construction till I was 22, I think, 23. Put 3 or 4 properties in the portfolio, circa 3 to 4 million, and then jumped out of that into the buyer's agency space. And it was just like a natural progression because when I started investing, I started like doing podcasts like this and started to build a little brand. People started to know who I was in the investing scene. And then I just got really obsessed with like personal development and making, sort of living up to my own potential. And then it was a natural progression into the buyer's agency space. I didn't necessarily go into the buyer's agency space in the investor scene. I went in, the owner-occupier scene in the eastern suburbs. And then, yeah, dude, just started to build some awesome momentum and build a great brand, like personal brand, and was underneath another firm for 6 months or something, 9 months, I think it was. And then I ended up, parting ways with those guys, and I've started Henderson Advocacy. And now it's sort of blown up, which has been awesome. But the transition was really natural. Like it was, okay, I've capped out what I can borrow on my income right now, which was circa 150, 200 grand as a salary. And what's the next step? So just, I could have sat there on 150, 200, not being able to borrow for a few years until I paid down some debt or they changed, the lending regulations or rules. So I just sort of thought, fuck it, I'll leave, start my own business and work underneath another firm. You're essentially a contractor inside of the real estate sphere. Have that sort of 12 or 18 month grace period where I can't get lending, but I'm not leaving any opportunity on the table because I've already maxed my servicing on the income that I had. And then from last sort of June, which is when I started buying again, that was like sort of 2 years on from when I originally joined. I did a few things on the interim, like I bought an off-the-plan apartment with a really small deposit that wasn't settling for 2 years. It was a bit of a risque play, but I bought that with the hope of offloading it for a profit with a very small down payment, which is what I did. So I still was in like playing with property, and then I bought some stuff before I had finance and got long settlements on it. So I was like buying at today's price and obviously settling hopefully at a price that was higher, which again worked out for me. And then from June onwards, I bought like 10 million or something worth of property last year. So it was, it's just all sort of happened, dude. And now I just like keep going with the momentum, right? Like you start to build more and momentum, more and more people get to know who you are, and you just got to ride that wave, I think.
Yeah, you've definitely done well.
Don't know if that answered that question.
No, it definitely does. I guess that then what leads on to that is I haven't really delved too much into what else you're up to, but I see there's some other businesses on the horizon, or at least you're into some networks, and there's a bigger picture out of all of this as well. Tell me a little bit how like that sort of thought process has grown from starting your own business now.
So I've always been in like around big business owners because my mentor Chris Gray was in a network called Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global organization of some of the world's biggest businesses. So he was in that, and I was always hanging around his friends when I was at events with him or on the boat or whatever it was. And then like that's what sort of opened my eyes. So like fuck, there's a big world out there, and like there's a lot to see and do, and a lot of people to meet, and then I started understanding that the reality of the world is most things are commoditized, right? Like what we do as buyers agents, sure, some people have different strategies, but fuck, the reality is, dude, we're all very similar, like, and the only thing that separates anything in the world is brand. So then I was like, really focusing on building a brand. So I started my own media company, and I was like, I'm not going to pay someone else to do all my marketing and branding. I'll, start it myself. So that's sort of grown alongside the business. And then, my end goal is developing and building the most luxurious buildings in the world all around the world. So, now this is what I'm going to do with the Paddington property I'm sitting in now, which is redevelop that. And that'll essentially be the start of that business. And then, like I just hang out with a lot of different people. Like I was on a supercar rally the week before last with 100 different business owners, 50 supercars. To own a $500,000 car, you've generally got to be doing okay in life. So, I went in that. And again, like there's so many different people in the world that do different things that make a lot of money. And I just love hanging around those people. And I've also joined EO as well. And I guess the bigger picture, dude, is just definitely not to be a buyer's agent for my whole life. That's for sure. This is a stepping stone into other stuff. And just to see how hard I can go and, how well you can do. I think that's the biggest thing. And there's probably going to be a stage of my life where I get over it and I'm like, fuck this, I'll do something else now. But for now, it's just like, well, I just want to prove to myself how far I can go.
Yeah.
So
aim for the start.
That's the long and the short of it. Just like live up to your potential, like why set a limit on something? Everyone, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to have $100,000 passive income. And that's great if that's for you, but like, why not $100 million a year passive income? I like Grant Cardone's thinking. Like, I don't necessarily like his flashiness all the time. Like, I'm definitely, actually, I do like it. It's funny. But yeah, like, I just love the way he thinks. It's like, fuck, why think like this when you can do that? And I guess the difference between actually doing it is thinking whether or not you can do it. So, I think that's sort of my thing is like how big can you get? How much can you do in your life? You only get one of these things, while also then keeping the ego in check and not necessarily getting ahead of yourself and thinking, I'm invincible and all the rest of it.
Yeah, if you limit yourself to something, that's all you'll ever achieve. So keep those horizons up.
Yeah.
Now, mate, I know
that's it.
I think there's 1,001 property one-liners out there, but if you had one, what would it be?
Mate, I just read a piece that someone wrote on Gavin Rubinstein in the Sydney Morning Herald, and it's got nothing to do with property, but the one-liner was gold, and there's a lot of people out there that are always talking bad about other people, right? Like, and usually the reason for that is because that person's doing better than them, and they want to talk bad about them to bring them back down to their level. And the line that Gavin said was, "Winners focus on winning, and losers focus on winners." And dude, it's so fucking true. It's just like that was gold, and it's so true. Like winners focus on winning, and losers focus on how the fuck they can bring the winners down to their level. And Gary Vee talks about like you can either build the biggest building in town by building the biggest building, or you can build the biggest building in town by tearing down the other biggest building so yours is the biggest. And I'm very much like, there's so many people out the industry that don't like me. Just because I'm different, I'm unique. I'll just share my thoughts, and I'm pretty opinionated, I guess. And I call that BS as well a lot of the time, and that doesn't go down too well with people. So that's my one-liner, bro.
I like it. Nah, it just means you're real and you say it how it's meant to be said, and you're doing your own thing. You're on your own track and on your own journey, mate. So you are absolutely killing it. Well, it's always a pleasure having a chat, brother. Thanks for coming on again, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Mate, always a pleasure. Never a chore.